for today. I'm not going to do much talking except for this introduction. Everyone is always very happy when that happens. So we have a guest today, Arek. I will let you introduce yourself in a second. Who is going to talk about AutoImp, and which is software around IMP, and what he did with that, and how it works. And he will use a Polish customer to illustrate that. I will not try to say any Polish names because they will be wrong anyway. I will let that to Arek as well. Meanwhile, Arek, I was told before we start talking about imposition, I was told that if you want Belgian beer, you should also check Auchan, and that it should still be available there. Just so you know, I have some contacts in Poland. Okay, then I'm going to stop talking, and I'm going to give the word to you, Arek. Please take it away.
Okay, so we've built around Calas PDF Toolbox and IMP, IMPflow, the solution which makes the impositioning as a completely automatic solution. How we did it? Sorry, it should work like this. Here on our website, I found that we've got almost everything explained. And PM software dash AutoImp, here's the information. So we've built the solution which has to generate the layouts which are completely profitable, or the most profitable, in taking into account the possibility of the equipment, the technical equipment which customer has, and also the deadlines and which are necessary for delivering the product in the proper time. So these two things was our main goal, and how we did it. First of all, we did all the necessary information. We get all the necessary information from the customer about the cost of the production, and that is everything defined in IMP. All the materials existing, the cost of these materials, the availability of the dimensions of the materials. That is the first thing. And the second is the cost of the production on each machine, the efficiency, the speed of the machine, the cost of the CTP plates, and everything like that. So all the database in IMP is fulfilled with the proper data which came directly from the customer. And what was also necessary here, we did all the settings which are also here. It is our method of the finishing, and all these finishing methods are also has got the possibilities, the dimensions, and the cost of that these processes. So IMP gets the information out of it and creates the layouts. Here is an example. Part of the jobs which was delivered for the gloss paper, 130 grams. These are bound components with the different sizes, with different amounts of pages. And also here is a list of different unbound components which were grouped upon the regulations. And IMP calculate that because it takes a little time. So I have calculated that before, and IMP generates the layouts. The layouts are, here is, I believe, 8 different layouts prepared for different printing machines and prepared for the different sizes of the material. And what we do is we check whether it is a good from the production point of view layout, and because we define something which is called ideal layout. And these regulations of ideal layout are used for checking whether the layout generated by IMP in that moment was good or not. If it was good, then it is sent to the production. If it wasn't good, then we send all the jobs which were on these layouts back to the database, and it will wait another 15 minutes to be layouted better by IMP. They could be better because every minute or every next time there is a lot of delivery. For example, the customers which we support with the solution has got 800 to 1,000 jobs per day. So here is plenty jobs to be set on the layouts. And going back to the regulations, what we do with that. So we send the job into the system. MIS system, or the production system of customer, gives us information about the product, a type of product, the dimensions of the product, the dimensions of the bleeds, binding method, and all of that. And all these information are sent via XML. And these XMLs comes directly to the, go back to the info. Let it be here. It goes to the hot folder. Each time it lands here, AutoIMP gets that in and put it into the loaded folder. If, for example, here is a batch of the jobs which we could open, and there is an information which is necessary for us, that this type is flyers, in Polish it is flyers, customer ordered 2,000 copies, there is dimensions of the product, there is grain direction which is necessary for putting that on properly on the paper, there is bleeds definition, and there is also offcut if it is necessary, for example, for the covers of the bound pour catalogs. And each product, here is wizytówki, which is business card in Polish, ordered in 250 copies, 90 by 50, and so on. All this information is necessary for us to know what is the job, on which paper it should be put or produced, whether here is finishing or whether there is no. This, for example, has the finishing, it is foil soft skin plus UV 3D finishing, which needs design. So here is a file for this design, and here is the source file for the CMYK job. And each job comes into this system, we put it together and we group that. How do we group that? Here is some keys how we should group the jobs upon the type of the product. Presentation folder, business cards, here is pour glut catalogs, and so on. So for example, if it is presentation folder, then you have to print it on only 2 machines, for which the customer is equipped. And we never use, yes, of course. For ideal sheet, there is not allowance for duplication. If it is business card, we place them on a machine for arrow cut for cutting. If it is business card, we combine one-sided and two-sided, and so on and so forth. So, for example, if it is B1 format, then the dimensions of the bleeds are smaller. If it is B2 format, then you can send it only for a type of machine which will be good for Konica Minolta and for HP Indigo, for example. If it is cell stitch catalog, so which is less than 500 pieces, then it will be collected on the printer, printed on digital machine, and only one signature on the sheet is allowed for such a usage. If it is more than 500 pieces, then it will be sent to the offset machine and it will be placed as a regular signatures for that. Also, here is some regulation about glued catalogs. If, for example, customer doesn't want to print more than 3,000 sheets of the layout. If the order is smaller than that, for example, 185 pages with 5 copies, then it will produce 185 layouts. But because of that, if it is calculated or multiplied by 5, then it is worth to do it on digital machine. If it is more than 3,000 copies, then it is sent to the offset machine, and customer wants to have it one catalog on one set of the sheet-fed layouts. What else? We take care about whether the job is one-sided or two-sided, whether the finishing are one-sided or two-sided. All these settings are necessary for making the groups, and these groups are sent directly to inflow. So AutoImp send that somewhere here. I had to here. Here are some in-defined folders for inflow for all the jobs which are regularly done. There is in folder and out folder for generation of the layouts and XML files which are necessary then for checking whether the layout is good or not. And here are also the definition for the layout templates settings. And for example, here are 2 jobs which are sent to the inflow, and it will use the resources for making the calendar properly. And here is an presentation folders solutions. If it is autobond use, so for foils and like UV, there are special settings. So here are multiple in folders and one out folder, and in that our out folder we do get the PDF, the XML file, and all the necessary data, and then we read it and we check whether the generated layout is good or not. It means whether it fits the ideal regulation of the layout or not. What are these ideal regulations? It is also here an example of what customer wants to have or what should be rejected. So the customer wants the sheet usage to have more than 70%. If there is drip or high gloss, he doesn't allow repetition on the sheet. Generally, do not repetition unless there are some regulations. For example, if there is some amounts of the mostly ordered jobs. So if it is 500, 1,000, 2,250, and so on, customer doesn't allow to make duplication, because if he waits another 15 minutes, he will probably get another job to fulfill that empty place. So if it is that group, we don't allow the repetition unless it is printed more than 5,000 copies, then we allow. And what else? In a poster group, there is no repetitions allowed. There is also definition how the business card should be fulfilled. For example, in that moment, they had only 3 columns on AeroCAD to be cutted because of the collecting that on this finishing machine. So it should be made only in that proper place, and 3 different columns should be printed. And here is also definition of the wastage. For example, XIMP gets the 5 or 6 flyers which are for 500, but one is 300, and imp gets that together on the one sheet, and that 200 copies has to be thrown to the trash. So we do calculate whether it is allowed or not. If the cost of that is smaller than the amount, then it is accepted. Otherwise, it is rejected. On MGI, there is the ways to define that it shouldn't be more than 15%. And presentation folder are also completely not allowed to make the repetition. But of course, all these regulations are till the moment when the deadline is given for that particular job. Because if the deadline comes, then the job has to be put it on the layout and has to be approved to be able to produce that on time. So finally, we check whether the deadline is still here allowed or not, and what are the behavior about the deadlines. We've got here the two schedules of the behavior. First is very easy. So the customer gets the jobs. We put every 15 minutes, for example, to imp to generate the layout, and then we check whether it is ideal or not, the layout. But if it is 2:30 p.m. and the deadline for the job is today, then this is the last moment that it has to be put it on the layout. So then on 2:30, we prioritize that job, and we say, of course, if the job with priority comes into onto the layout is automatically accepted. Here's also 8 p.m., which is deadline for tomorrow, but for example, that not for the coated papers 130 grams. So the customer could wait a little bit, or it is high gloss or drip off. The customer wants to wait for tomorrow. And this is the first. Of course, we take care about the weekends, so it doesn't work on Saturday and Sunday. And the second solution is much more sophisticated. It is we did it for Rogler MIS system, which delivers us to AutoImp the information that when the job has to be printed. So we don't get the information that the layout has to be done, but when the job has to be printed. So we do take care about the time which we get from IMP, and we calculate whether it is still a possibility to run the job once again, or the job is so close to the deadline of the print production that we have to prioritize that job. And for example, if it is a huge order, then it could take 6 hours, for example, on the machine. So the deadline for that is that 6 hours, which gives us IMP as a time for production. We calculated from the deadline, and then we are 6 hours earlier the deadline for the layout creation. So it is quite well working solution because all the solution is completely automated, automatically also planned in a planner of Rogler system. And for the easier handling of the jobs and for AutoImp, we have made something which is called AutoImp Web. The AutoImp Web is a front end for the user from the production side, where he could give AutoImp some information. For example, the availability of the machine. For example, today HP Indigo is available for 458 minutes only. That time is calculated from the jobs which were generated on the layouts and we just minus 1,440 minutes, it's 24 hours. And if IMP generates the layout for HP Indigo and we accept that, we just minus the time which is necessary for the calculation. Of course, it could happen that customer wants to switch off such a machine. So here's a possibility to say, okay, today I had some service problems, or I don't know why, but I have to disable such a machine. So I can set it, make it disable, and then from that point, I have to reload it. Availability for that machine is 0 minutes, and now it will AutoImp will never use this machine for layout generation. What else? Here comes the newest plans, which with a status of ready, which could wait for the customer or for the TP department just to prove that it is a good layout. But on the other hand, we use an automatic acceptance of these layouts. So in a moment, that layout will be accepted automatically. Here is also the newest job which are coming to the system. Here are jobs. Jobs are listed here, and there is some necessary information. For example, we can group them by the paper, whether they are planned or not. We can choose the jobs with a deadline or when they were received. So here is a list. On each list, there is 50 jobs. If the job is planned, then the status of that is accepted. If it is not planned, as you see, there is no plan. So if you go into that, we can see the folder, which is these are inner pages. These are cover and 4 pages of that. If there will be a finishing, then there will be additional files shown here. And here is a view plan option, and we can see on which layout that was planned. That was the cover, and that is the job which was planned on 5 layouts. Each layout has got the information which comes from Colors PDF Toolbox about the occupancy of the color, and there is also the information about what type of paper should be used, which dimensions, how to print it, how many copies, netto format +7, which is calculated by IMP. There is also the colors, there is the running time, the make ready time, and there is a number of cuts for each layout. So upon that, we get the information. Here is the report of the generated layout. Here is the CMYK job, which is used by the customer on CTP machine or HP Indigo. And here is the cutting JDF for the guillotine to run the program on that guillotine. And you can see I will try to find out the plan, which is more complicated. So for example, here's the catalogs. Here are 2 layout groups generated, first layout group and the second layout group. What we do here is we take care about that the job, the same catalog, the inner pages are put it on the same machine and the same paper. It is unfortunately not supported by IMP. So we first of all we check on which machine was chosen, which format of the paper, because if you use the ganging method in IMP, you cannot IMP cannot produce only on one machine. He will choose, for example, here a B1 format, here will choose A1 format. So we do care about that, and we send it once again to the system, to IMP, and then we say, okay, we want it only on COM 6, for example. What else here? Each plan choose here is the MGI UV3D. We do something which is called ganking gang. What is ganking gang? If we have a job like that with UV3D and soft skin, for finishing making this UV3D, customer uses the MGI machine. MGI machine is a machine which has got the format A3 plus format. So we do first the ganging on the A3 plus format, which is that thing, and then that is converted into the PDF file and sent once again to the system, and will be put it together or ganged together with the rest of the jobs which has got soft skin on the both sides. And then upon that, there is a generation of the master plan. And for example, here is the master plan. Unfortunately, there was no other jobs to be printed, so the auto inputted that all these layout ganging here on the HP Indigo and gang them together. So here is 2 steps of the ganking gang, and we do support such a thing. And as you see here, here is a plan for printing that on the HP Indigo. Here is also the subplan. Here is UV3D, and here is cutting for that small part. But here is also cutting. That cutting has got the information how to cut it into 4 pieces. That cut, or 2 pieces as a matter of fact, because this is the front. And this cutting is how to cut the rest of the jobs which are put it here on the guillotine. All of that is supported by us. What else we've got here? We can reject it, such a job. We can cancel the job. We can update the job and send the job once again to the system, where there is a behavior, what to do if the layout is generated and is printed, for example, but on the print, then the customer phones and says, okay, but I have sent the wrong PDF file. So we do care about the rest of the jobs which are on the generated and printed layout. So the customer will once again have this one job in a new form, but the rest will be used in the production. But otherwise, if it is not printed and the customers was informed that there was something wrong with the job, then the PDF file, which is coming once again uploaded by the system, rejects such a plan, and that all these jobs which were put it on that layout will be once again go to the basket, and then the layout will be generated. I will also want to show you there is a status, sorry. Here is a status of W. This W status gives the information that that layout was done because of the existence of the high priority file. But if there is no, there's also the W here. It came from war hour. If there is normal priority of the file, so the layout was generated upon the regulation or upon the ideal layout regulations, and then the priority is normal, and then the layout is that kind of ideal. What else AutoImp could do? If we have a plan, for example, on Commor E6, let's choose something like that. Here are some catalogs. Here is also the flyers. There are one type of catalog with job number 690 here. Here is 687, and here is another flyer. So we could say that we want some changes in the layout, or we want to do that manually by ourselves in IMP, then we could do such a thing like set all components to manual. If we choose that, these jobs will be set to a manual. Then if they are manual, I have to reload it. They get the status of M here. We can reject the whole plan. If we reject that plan, all these components will be released and they will go here to the manual place. Then we can combine them and to make the planning manual. It works that we do generate an XML file. As you see, we can do auxiliary plan. Is that plan when you use ganking ganks, for example, UV3D or something like that, UV. If we save manual, then in a folder manual products, we do generate an XML file. Which has got the information for IMP about all these jobs which were on that. So we will import that into IMP. Where's IMP here? Sorry, this is not IMP. Here is import XML file. The manual products, all these products come here. We can choose them. We can plan them. By the rules we have prepared, for example, making that only on HP Indigo. With options defined. And now, if we agree for such a thing, we just do save that in a inflow in the manual with the name which came from AutoImp. If it is sent here, then in inflow, it will be calculated. I have to check whether the PDT is open. Yes, it's cute. I'll switch the rest. In manual, okay. And we have to wait for the AutoImp to create a zip file and create the everything what is necessary. There are some settings which are in AutoImp, which is probably important. It is how often we send to inflow the information. There is also the hot folder period that we wait 1000 milliseconds to be fully sure that the whole job was sent properly to the hot folder. There is also the restart of inflow, because when we send very a huge amount of PDFs to the to ImpFlow, it consumes the memory and don't release it. Unfortunately, it is a bug from Adobe. I was informed, so we have to restart ImpFlow from to be sure that the whole production will run. We take care about the amount of gigabytes of RAM, the storage also threshold. If it is less than 20 gigabytes, we stop the auto calculations. There are definitions of all flows for each product which is sent. We do created the flows in ImpFlow, and using that we send the proper jobs with the proper flows to the calculations. What is the result of making the layout? It is, I've got here the generated layouts which were copied from our customer. So here's, for example, the PDF which will be printed with the business card. Here is the JPEGs which we use for in ImpFlow in AutoImp Web for visualizing these sites. There is cutting JDF. Here is an overview. Overview is, for example, for that customer used on each each machine which is used for finishing. So they scan this QR code, and upon that, they all the necessary information is uploaded to the finishing machine. So we do generate one-to-one in format black and white printout, which is printed on the poster printer, and then it is together cutted together with the original sheet, which is produced on the machine. Here is a plan XML which gets all the necessary information here about what is used, component name, how many times it is on the placed on, or here are placement of each jobs, how many copies are produced, and so on. And upon that, we do inform the production system that what was the generated layout and what's inside, so the MIS system could handle such a thing. What else? It is the report which comes from IMP. And if it is a finishing for UV, then it is another JPEGs to be visualized, and PDF, which is here. The same is with the rest of the jobs. And all these informations are zipped together. And such a zip we do send to the folder plan. And in that plan folder, the production system gets that from here. Here's its plans. And all these things are here. And if we visualize that in ImpFlow, we just go into that zip file, we get these all this necessary information from that zip file. And this is mainly how it works. I want to go back to the presentation because I have prepared one more thing. Where is it? Here it is. Because we have made one of these companies the comparison between AutoImp solution and the real people who are working here in DTP department. They were equipped with metric software, and they were given exactly the same data as we did. So for 6 weeks we were collecting this data, we were generating the layouts, and we were calculating these amounts of the cost of the production using the settings which were inside the IMP. So we calculated the material cost, the setup time, the running time on the machine. If that was, here was the click cost for the digital printing, then there was also this click cost and the cost of the cutting, because also IMP get us information about the cutting. And we have finally make the comparison between the netto format, which was, I don't know, where is my mouse? Disappeared, I don't know. So netto format, as in the last point here, is that if it was A4, 4 plus 4 colors, copies 500, then we calculated the square millimeters 210 by 297 multiplied by 2 front and back, multiplied by 500 pieces. And the same, we were calculating the generated layouts made by IMP and made by AutoIMP, made by DTP. And the result was that during that time, there was 3.8 million square meters of the ordered jobs, and they were planned, and the result of the cost was about that. DTP, 1 square meter of the printout had in 77 Polish grosze, it is 0.77 Polish zloty, and AutoIMP did it 10% better, which is when we multiply that 0.07 by the cost, by the square meters, you will get about 59,000 euro better planning than the DTP department did. So when the customer saw the results, decided to go into the AutoIMP solution, and we are now finishing the whole production system, and it will be completely automated. What else? This solution works now in 2 big Polish companies. One is Chroma.pl, which is quite a big company, and 1/3 of that comes completely automatically from the website. And the second is Chroma, which is 100% internet printing company. There's Chroma.pl website and the shop, and they produce about 1,000 orders per day. And these tests were done in Chroma. So I don't know, I've got here also the cost of such a solution. It is cost of the Colors PDF Toolbox server for 4,800. InSoft IMP plus IMPFlow, it is about 21,000 euro. It is the modes which are necessary for run such jobs as you saw during the there is no die cut lines and such a production in that price. InSoft IMP additional seat, which is used for the DTP department, which will use IMP to make some modification in generated layouts. For example, it could happen that the A4s are put it on the layout in a way that it is very hard to print it on the offset machine. Then you can use the tool switch in IMP and very easily make some improvements of such a layout, save it once again, and it is already done. Cost of AutoIMP is 25,000 euro plus to all of these costs, 20% of the obligatory paid yearly software maintenance agreement. So the total cost is, as you see, and the implementation of the software is about 7,500 euro. And that's it. 2 minutes later than I promised.
Very good. Thank you very much. If people have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or write something in the chat. I will start because I have thought about it already. You talked about Chroma and the
Drukomat.
Yeah, but in Chroma you did the tests, right? That was
Yeah.
in Chroma itself. So if I understand correctly from the numbers that you mentioned there, for them the return on investment would be something like 2 months.
Something like that, yeah.
If this is 6 weeks, let's assume that there is a little bit more implementation because what they do is complicated, but still it's going to be a pretty quick return on investment for this, right?
That's true. Our goal was to be as good as the DTP department, and we did exact. I have to hide it. Wait a moment. I've got here the concrete numbers. And we did this test in 2 years, in 2019, where after 1 month there was 152,000 plus. In 2020, we did it with, here was dates, unfortunately, numbers converted me, but that was the beginning of the year. So here is also something which in each week. So as you see in the first week, the AutoImp was better than the DTP for that amount. In second, third, fourth, there was almost equal. Then 100,000, and there is 47,000. Everything depends on the amount which is sent to the system. If there are more jobs, then the people are a little bit confused, and they are on a big hurry. They have to make this production working, so they don't care about the efficiency of the layout. But AutoImp, if it is fulfilled with the data, then it is a perfect solution because it really calculates the ideal sheet, and that result is because of that.
So the more jobs you have, the worse typically the DTP department would do because they are under stress. But the better IMP is going to do because there are more jobs, so you can optimize better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Question from Arsen. You could do something similar with Metrics or Phoenix, for example. I'm assuming that is correct. Why did you choose IMP? And for example, not Metrics that was already in use
because when we started that project, Metrics had completely no solution like inflow, and here inflow is necessary for these calculations. And I know last year I was informed that Metrics has got something similar to inflow, but I have never been tested that. And finally, the only available solution for me is IMP, and there is, because of Ravi and Ninesh, the cooperation between us is really perfect, and there was a lot of things which had to be improved by Insoft to get these results. And it really works like my small company, their small company, and together we did something big. I know that with Metrics it is completely impossible, and I had some reports from Polish market that there is no way to get anything which will be dedicated to you in such a solution. So you can wait for the list of similar needs, and then they will maybe do it in next version after 1 year. Yeah. But the contract with Ravi and with the Insoft is really perfect, the cooperation.
Yeah, I think that is something that we see as well, is that they are very responsive, and they really listen when you ask something. Yeah. let's say that you want to implement this with a customer. How would that start? Would you? I'm assuming you would have to start by looking at what the rules are that they want to follow and everything like that. The analysis
that is quite easy because the now we are starting to implement the third solution on Polish market. This is the third player on our web shops market. And because of our website, this information, how to go out from here. Here it is. There is these regulations, this not that here is the grouping. Upon that, if it is an example, then the customer very easily could define what is their needs for that. So reading that, it's quite easy to generate the same results from all their needs. And finally, if DDP department sees such a comparison of each product, how it is done, they really very easily could do as the rules of grouping and the rules of the ideal sheet. And of course, it takes some time to implement it, but it is not a huge thing. I believe that now we are on the stage that such a full running production system could be ready within two months, maximum 3.
Yeah.
After all the tests, of course.
Maybe one more detailed question from myself. You showed that you can switch products products to manual, and then you deleted the calculated plan, and you generate something that can be imported in IMP and calculated manually. You then send them back through IMP, but if I understand correctly, what you send through is the IMP product file, the PGT file or whatever it is. So what IMP will calculate is exactly what you manually created. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
This is the idea, but because the operator don't use time for generating all these things like PDT, PDF, JDF, or all these JDF for cutting and so on. But because the AutoImp is completely close to the production system of the customer, then the whole flow is the same. It doesn't matter whether it is done through IMP or it is done through AutoImp automatically.
Yeah. Yeah, but it looks weird that you send it back through IMP or IMP flow in a way, but it is to generate all the other stuff that you would otherwise have to generate manually and get it back into AutoImp, into the overview. Maybe one last question from myself, and it is if you imagine a company that has instead of one of your online printers, we go to a big large format printer, for example, that also has die cut jobs and so on. Would it work there as well, or do you think that would be difficult?
We have never tested that. The answer for that question is whether IMPflow is really generating the layouts efficiently for the customer. If the customer could see that IMPflow generates the proper layouts, then it is very easy to handle such a thing.
Yeah, the answer there is yes.
So there is no problem.
But the rules would just be different. I'm assuming that in large format environments, you very often have that specific products have to be printed always on specific machines, but that is something you have here as well, if I understood correctly. So it should not be too difficult to... and the rules have to be implemented by you, correct? That is not something that the customer has an interface for to change. That is something.
No, it is too complicated because we will have to write the C# once again.
Yeah.
Because it depends on many things. For example, our customers now wants to use the completely automatic flow for exchanging only the UV3D, for example, because the layout they print 1,200 copies of the sheets, and then they put it on the MGI, and they see that there is something wrong in the like UV3D file. So they don't want to generate once again the layout and print it once again on HP Indigo, but to use the printed, and to change the exact layout. It is not so easy, but we are now working on a completely automatic solution. What is also very important here, because we do use Kala's PDF toolbox, and somewhere here are some of the possible calculation which Kala's does. It is here. This all the jobs which comes from the web shop are somehow standardized. But after that, we do another calculation which prepares the job for the proper handling in IMP, because the engine could not want to support a type of file. So finally, we use Kalas for make some changes in the file, which don't destroy the PDF files, but they standardize that file to IMP. Then we could we prepare the file exactly to be able to be layouted. It means that IMP doesn't support, for example, for the special colors, special additional files. But as you saw in the here it was. Here's a job. And the job has got the inner pages and the cover has got soft skin and the UV3D, and there is a file. So this file is something separate, because that was sent by a web shop, and this is the CMYK file. So what we do is that we put Kala's PDF, using Kala's PDF toolbox, that file which comes from the with this finishing onto the CMYK file. We send it to IMP. IMP generates a 5-color layout. Then we grab the data and from the color and save it as a separate thing for use on the, for example, on MGI, and the CMYK comes in a completely different direction. So the same we do with this finishing when I showed you this overview. So it is also calculated by Kalas. All the colors was changed to black and white. Then the QR code was placed in a exact place of the file, and then it is sent together. So finally that part is prepared in with a file as a one file for IMP, and that file for IMP is sent to the production. And so there are a lot of things where we really use Kala's PDF toolbox. There is also some handling for if IMP has got some problems. Once again here, if we are here's something which is called failed components. If we see that there is something wrong with the job, it comes into the system, it is sent to ImpFlow, and ImpFlow generates the empty layout, generates the error. Unfortunately, IMP doesn't inform us what was the problem. He just put the red information on the screen, but they don't send it anymore. So we calculate how many times the file was sent to the imp flow and how many times it was on a error layout or didn't come with a proper thing. So finally, that for example is material which is not defined in the imp, and so we take care about such a thing. But on the other hand, if we see that there was some failure on the layouts generated by imp, we use Scala's PDF toolbox to recalculate each PDF which was on the layout to make it maybe better and possible for imp to be calculated properly. If it fails, then the list of the failed job is here. Of course, it could happen that the good job once is on a bad layout. Secondly is when you run it once again, then it is on a good layout. So it disappears from here. It is only for the jobs which has some problems. So it's quite easy to handle with such information.
That means that someone would have to look at these problem jobs and then figure out
for sure, yeah,
what to do with them.
Here is another story about Inflow. Inflow doesn't support the files which are bigger than 2 gigabytes. Yeah. So then they have to be shrinked. So in the beginning we wanted to do that automatically. So if the file is more than 2 gigabytes, then make the calculation automatically. But I decided not to do that, and we put it here into the failed job because it will generate the empty plan, and the customer has to look into that file. It's quite easy. He chooses that job, set to manual, and then he works with that file. He exchanged that file, so it's quite easy to handle.
Okay, 2 more questions for you meanwhile. The first one is a specific imposition question. Do you support automatic sewing segmentation for digital printing?
Could you tell me what is it?
That's a very good question. Thomas, I don't know if you can give more information about that. I know that if you're talking about doing the calculation of signatures correctly for sewing machines, that is indeed available in the finishing settings for imp itself, but I don't know whether that is the question.
So if you make an imposition for the sewing machine, you have to calculate how many pages you have, how many sheets you have to sew. Mm-hmm. What is the optimal segmentation for these sheets that you have to build? So you are building typically in our environment 4 pages, and you stack 4 pages inside and make 1 segment. Mm-hmm. And you have to recalculate how many pages you have, how many segments you have in maximum, by minimum, and to put these sheets together. So that you have rules like
as a matter of fact, it is done by imp because you generate that all that in the here.
It's the binding setup, right?
Yeah, it is this setup. Yeah. I will. Here it is. I don't know how to switch to English. Sorry.
No problem.
I always use that Polish version. Here are size limits and the collecting and gathering units. Upon these settings, you decide whether it is possible to use such a finishing or not. Mm-hmm. And what I present here, it's this company is equipped only with Horizon saddle stitchers. So they use only if F4-2 or F4-1 folding schema, but the second one uses all these for 16 pages, for 8 pages, and so on. And upon these settings here, and also which are in preferences, which small segments has to be outside or inside, you decide how it should look like. And finally, we did all these settings properly for both solutions, for the complicated one with the 16 pages, 8 pages, and so on, and for this very easy here. But the responsible for that is IMP.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So one other question about AutoImp Web. How many logins can occur at the same time in AutoImp Web?
There is no limitation. As a matter of fact, we deliver one. We can define how many customer needs logins, but normally the production has got something like Chroma.pl. That's all, and all of them are using this solution.
Okay. One more specific question. Do you support lanes for digital print, such as the HP Indigo 20,000?
What is lanes?
Yes, Arsen, I don't know what you mean either, I'm afraid.
That's great.
Hello, everyone. I mean, lanes for like labels.
Okay. So for label
when you print something like flyers or something similar on WebFed press, and few lanes.
So for label printing, I know what
I will show you what we have here. I go to Safari, to AutoImp Web. We've got something which is called arrow card. So we do grouping of the jobs in such things. If it is something that you can use, there is no problem with that.
But the biggest issue is the lanes. All 3 lanes can be with different length.
Yes, no. So that is what I thought you were referring to. So in label printing, you combine multiple jobs and they all have a different run length because you need different copies for each of them, and you want to put jobs together that are more or less the same run length to not have too much waste. That is something that in IMP is not supported at the moment. It's a very specific imposition technique. The people from Insoft are aware that this is a limitation. There was some talk about doing a solution for that, but at the moment it is not possible in IMP. We have done partial solutions or complete, depending on the company, but then not with IMP, but calculations using a combination of Switch and PDF Toolbox in that case. So that you can calculate for each job what the run length would be, could look for jobs that are similar and then put them together. To put them together, you don't need IMP, you can do it with PDF Toolbox because it's a very simple process of step and repeat per lane. The difficulty is selecting the right product to put together. So we have done that for some customers in using PDF Toolbox and IMP and Switch, but it is not possible at the moment in IMP.
Okay, thanks.
It's one of the only types of products I know of that IMP does not really support at the moment. Most other things are supported, but that kind of imposition at the moment is not supported.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for the demonstration, Arik. That was very interesting. Also, looking at the questions, I'm not the only one who feels that way. So thank you for that. If there is someone who has further questions or wants to talk about something specific around this, just get in contact with us and we will be happy to help. It's now 5:15, so with questions it was a little bit longer. That is good. As I said in the beginning, the session has been recorded. If you want to re-watch part of it, then you will be able to do so on our YouTube page. Give us a little time to edit it down and put it on there, but you should find it somewhere in the course of next week on the Four Pees Café lists on the Four Pees YouTube page. Good. Then I think we're done for today. Once more, thank you, Arik. Thank you
very much.
All of you to join and stay until the end of a rather long session. I hope it was you all found it interesting. We will undoubtedly see each other again at an upcoming cafe. Don't forget to register and have a really great rest of the day.